but I see the way that you three approach the Bible. And that's not saying anybody else does it wrong. Just the way that you three approach the Bible is the way that I approach the Bible. It just is. And I can tell that. And that's why when I butt heads with you, I have no problem with it. Because, you know, we're trying desperately to search out what God has given us. And there can only be one true answer. And if you disagree with me, we need to get it resolved. That's all there is to it. And so the other person I mentioned, who I won't mention again, but you heard her name, is we butt heads every Saturday night. And I am so happy that we do. And I think she is too.
Yeah, and she's very receptive to it.
I got to tell you what, I'm so happy we do. And I told her Saturday, either I'm right or you're right, but we're not both right. And so we need to resolve this. So that's all there is to it. If there's an issue that one of us is wrong on, I go to bed at night and I say, Lord, if my doctrine is wrong, please change me. Because I don't want to be wrong. Not simply because I'm teaching, but because I want to be right.
What do you call it? You have a word for it, but I can't. I don't want to be so hard-nosed about something.
Yeah.
To where I think that I'm right because I know I'm not. I mean, I'm at the elementary levels of understanding.
Well, that's right. But if you are convicted that you are right on an issue, then you need to pursue it as best you can until you find you're wrong. And that's why I pray, because I've got nobody telling me other than you and one other person that, you know, I disagree with that. Everybody else, you all just sit here and you're quiet. And now you ask questions, but you're never disagreeing. And then you guys are same, you're like Pat here, and Mary's back there as quiet as a bee. So, but I love the challenges because it gets me thinking. It helps me. And I guarantee you Rory does too. This guy that is listening, he'll be listening here whenever I get this posted. He listens to these things and he absorbs everything. And if he disagrees, he sends me an email right away and says, what about this? I mean, and I love that. I love that. And you know what? A couple times I've sent him back a response. I never heard from him, so maybe he just disagrees with me. He doesn't want to get into a fight or something. But I love when people challenge me because that means that I've got work to do, right? If I can't come up with a sufficient answer to their question, then I need to pray and say, Lord, you need to help me. I'm the one that needs help. You know, because I'm just searching the same book you are. It's just I might have read it 3 more times or whatever, you know. But in the end, Bible teachers are just simply people that happen to have a desire to teach and people willing to sit and listen. But to me, I'd rather be part of the instruction, not the instructor, you know. And that's why we go back and forth. And I love it. Jay once in a while pulls something out of his pocket that I have no idea where that came from. It's usually some small little thing, but I think, gee whiz, you know, where did he get that from? And it may be an answer I already have, but it helps me, you know, how to process. Mary's done it, Pat's done it, you've done it. Everybody in this class at one time or another has brought up some point that has got me thinking. I love that. It's when people sit there and just agree with me, man, I worry about that person. You know, I do.
It's usually because we're so overwhelmed with what you're putting out.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know, because I know we give a lot, and 2 hours is a long time, but 1 hour is never enough. So it's kind of a dilemma. I think Rory mentioned something about that too. He says something about shortening something or whatever, but hey, you guys asked for the 2-hour class, so you got it. Anyway, oh, there you go. And I love it. I could just sit here all day. Oh, man. Oh, yes, it does. All right, so we were in 14 somewhere, and we did the blessing. We'll read that real quickly. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abraham, God Most High. Okay, and as it says, Melchizedek is blessing Abraham, so he is the greater. Okay, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand, and he gave him 1/10 of all. So that's the 10th. We've talked about the tithing. It's such a, anytime you want to talk about tithing after this, just let me know and we can get into more details, or we can read the tithing verses because we may never get to them. But it really is a sore spot with me because I don't think people should ever be pressured. I think people should give willingly the way the New Testament says, and that when you embarrass somebody that can't give, that's, you know, I just, anyway, I do use, you know, I'm one of the guys that picks, what do you call, usher or whatever when you take the play. I do that because they've asked me to do it. But I always feel like some of those people are just in a position. Some of them are bitter. And I didn't mean bitter, all of them. I mean, some of them, you know, they just look away and you know that they're having financial trouble. And I feel, wouldn't it be so much nicer if people would just put the money in the box and not feel that way? If they don't give, they don't give. You know, and people have things maybe going on in their life for 3 months where they can't give, you know, and then they'll start giving again, whatever. But that is not an indictment on Grace Baptist, so please understand that. Grace Baptist does things very well, and I have told them in the past what I feel about the plates. but that is their choice. This is their church, and whatever we teach in here, as long as it's doctrinally sound, that is all that matters. It is the church's choice how they run it. So there's no indictment on the church. It's just something I personally am leery about, is having a plate. I'd rather, like I said, I've been in a few churches. Unfortunately, the Jehovah's Witnesses have the box out front too, and so I hate to even use it as an example, but they do well. The people give, and I think they're giving kind of like out of working their way to heaven more than anything, but whatever, But I have been in churches that do very well to just have a box out front. So it's totally up to the approach of the church. Now the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons and take the goods for yourself. Okay. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand to the Lord God Most High, the possessor of heaven and earth. I love that terminology there. That I will take nothing, from a thread to a sandal strap, that I will not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I have made Abram rich. Now, why did he do that? Because there's nothing in here other than this particular verse. It's like Melchizedek. It doesn't say anything about him before. Why did he say this to those people?
What, I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten?
Yes. See, what the king of Sodom said to Abram, you just give me my people back, and you can keep everything that you captured, because the kings took away the people and the spoil from Sodom. And Abram said, no way. No way. I don't want anything that's yours. It will never be said that you made me rich.
Right.
Okay, why did he do that?
Well, he might have already, there's a lot of assumption here.
But you're right.
Known the wickedness of their...
It is an assumption, but I think it's a good one based on what's coming later. And we've all read the Sodom and Gomorrah account. I think it's a good assumption.
He probably had visited there.
Oh, absolutely. Gone down to see Lot and had lunch with him or something. And he thought, you know what? Yeah, he says, these people are, I'm not going to have anybody saying that these people made me rich. Now, what she said is right. That is an assumption.
I remember
But
it was Paul saying to Timothy that he said that don't join in the sin. Be careful that you don't join in the
right,
sin.
and by benefiting from Sodom, maybe they can say, what was the example I was just thinking of? What you said, it parallels what's happening here. Don't join in the sins of people. Well, if you take something from somebody that's already perverse, or the example that came into mind, and then it flew right back out, is the prayers. When you pray with non-Christian people to God, and you say, okay, you pray to your God and I'll pray to my God, you're condoning their prayer to their God, who's no God at all. Well, it's the same thing here. When you accept something from a perverse person, they're saying, well, he must think it's okay where I got my money. And that's why this church has a policy that people that I think are members cannot be participants, owners of a business that sells alcohol. No big deal. If people want to go out and drink, no problem. But they are promoting a lifestyle that is not appropriate. And I believe there's something like that in the Constitution, and don't quote me on that, because there's something about that where you cannot be actively participant in, and I believe it's a business that sells alcohol. And that doesn't mean a restaurant where they serve it, but like a business. And the only reason why is because they don't want the perception on the church. And I believe the assumption is the same here.
And I remember a few years back, and I'm sure you did too, they publicized it, where somebody won a lot of money in the lottery, and they were going to give a lot of it to Salvation Army, and they turned it down.
Yeah, they don't want it, right, because of the perception. Now, I'll tell you what, I would not be that way, and the reason why is, what is the purpose of the lottery? Forget how it affects people. What is the purpose of the lottery in Florida?
It's to raise money
for education.
But I think it's just another subtle way Satan uses to open the door to sin.
It could be, but you know what? Do we have bingo and do we have small lotteries in churches all over America? And I'm talking about, yeah, we do. And so if we do that, and the purpose is, how do we say this isn't okay, but this is okay, when the purpose is for education? We're trying to get the taxes off the people and the people that want to participate. So I'm not entirely sure that I would take that stand. I'm not saying that I would or wouldn't, or that I do or don't play the lottery, or I'm not trying to make any comment on that. But what I'm saying is, if they offered it and the purpose for that particular lottery was education,
so how much goes really to?
You know what? That's not our problem. Because how much of our taxes actually go to what they're supposed to go to, right? That's not our problem. Once the money belongs to them, They take it from us, whether we want to give it to them or not. And what do? They give it to the Muslims over in Egypt. They give it to the the Hindu worshipers. And yeah, they take our money. Once it's out of our hands, it's out of our hands. But if our lottery was set up for a particular purpose, and that's a good purpose, it's no different than a bingo game in a church. Yeah. So that's how I look at it. I'm not saying that's right, and I don't want to confuse anybody's heart about that, but that's how I perceive that. And so I have really no problem with the Florida lottery. The other lotteries, I have no idea what they're for. You know, you got Mega Millions, you got Powerball and all these different things, and I don't know what they're...
Well, I just go by what it says in Scripture. It says, if it's wrong for you, it's sin.
That's right!
Certain things God has put on my heart, and he said, Diane, if you got a conscience, quit buying the lottery. Because I'd say, well, how could I get rid of the money if I were to win the lottery?
That is exactly right. And you know what? I'm glad that you brought that verse up, because that's normally what I bring up with people. You know, I'll give you a real quick example. We're going to finish the last verse here, but I'll give you a real quick example of, and I might have brought this up in this class before, but one of the professors in college said that a guy he knew loved baseball. That was his whole life, was baseball, right? And he met the Lord, and he wouldn't go to a baseball game ever. And then, well, hang on. So the professor and his friend were going to a baseball game, and they said, hey, John, you want to go too? And John was like, how could you dare go to a baseball game? And they were like, what? And you know what? For him, it was sin. He had spent so much of his life possessed by baseball. It had become an idol in his life. He could not get over that. Now, someday he is going to be able to do this. He's going to be able to say, I'm getting back into the stadium, and I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. But man, his whole life was an idol of baseball. And I got things in my life that were that way. I wouldn't listen to anything but Christian music from the day that I found out there was a Christian music channel. I wouldn't listen. And now I listen to everything again. I listen to Led Zeppelin or, whatever. Makes no difference. But for about 5 years, for me, it was sin. I'd listen to it. I think, I feel so bad. And finally, I'm not going to listen to this.
God brought you from here down to here.
Right.
He did to me.
Right. He brings you in very focused, and then eventually he says, now go and enjoy yourself. Don't
let that other become your...
That's right. I'll tell you what I do. When the Joy FM is playing now, and they got some stupid game thing or something in the morning, boop, off it goes, and I listen to, whatever. Yeah. And if it's a commercial on 107.9, which is, the oldie station, then I hit AM radio and listen to Glenn Beck. I mean, yeah. I'm all over the place. Whatever is pleasing at the time, as long as it's not sinful, what do I care, But I have Joy FM right there. It's #1 on my button. So, but that's the way it is the Lord needs to get us out of where we were before He can let us back in, And everybody will take that differently. Somebody would probably have a heart attack in our church if they knew that I still listen to Led Zeppelin. They'd probably say, I mean, that's just the way it is. But they can't handle it, or they've never liked rock and roll or whatever. So anyway, here we go real quick. Somebody read 23 and 24 again. I think I read 23, but read that again.
And I will accept nothing belonging to you, not even a thread or the thong of a sandal, so that you will never be able to say, I made Abram rich. I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten, and the share that belongs to the men who went with me, to Aner, Ishal, and Mamre. Let them have their share. Okay, so these people went up with him to fight against these kings, all right? They brought all this booty back, and he says, I don't want any of it. He says, my 318 men, what they ate, that's all that, obviously the king funded their expedition. He said, that's it. That's all I'm taking. These guys, let them take whatever they have earned. But he says, I'm not going to do that. And that was a very good lesson for all of us in a church.